All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, meeting of the West Bridgewater Board of Water Commissioners. Minutes of the meeting, the previous meeting, did you have any comments?
None.
John?
No.
Take a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of March 17th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For you. Warrants have been signed, refunds have been signed. Moving right along, Mr. Hoyt from Tater and Howard to update us on our water projects.
Alright, so starting with Manly, I actually just got a construction schedule in my email, I guess on the right over here. So we'll have that to go over at the progress meeting on Wednesday. They did tell us that there's still like two big variables that they can't nail down yet. And that's gonna impact the timing of the shutdown. So that's kind of been what we've been really pressing on is like when, can we get the green sand plus sooner or later before demands go up and, we lose the, plant for a couple weeks. So they're being held up by Hungerford and Terry at the moment. So as you recall, we came in, drained one down, took a look at the internals, and based on that, then we saw a couple things that needed to be addressed. It's been about 3 weeks and we still don't have their quote with the price and the lead time on the items. And that's kind of...
The sand valves.
Yeah. So until we have that, understandably, the contractor is kind of saying, like, well, I can't tell you we're gonna come shut down the plant on this day because a week from now, Hungerford and Terry can tell us these parts are 5 weeks out. We did get on a call with the contractor today, mostly because I was like, I gotta give them some sort of update tonight. We don't know isn't really gonna cut it. And to their credit, they got on the phone with Hungerford and Terry and were told that they were gonna get it this week. So hopefully...
They're gonna get the delivery schedule this week or the parts?
They're gonna get the quote and lead times this week.
Okay.
Because then the contractor's gonna turn to us and say, tell us what to do. And we're gonna have to say, prepare a proposed change order to do X, Y, and Z. That's kind of the next step. So as you know, there's a contingency for exactly this reason. This is the one thing we all knew going in would be a likely change order is, repairing whatever your internals are. So it's not a surprise that we're doing this, but it's just frustrating that it's, a 2-month process. Meanwhile, the weather's starting to warm up out there. So, I did get a good feeling talking to the contractor that, they are taking this seriously. They're, gonna do what they can. But they also mentioned that adage is, a problem, and is refusing to give them a delivery time on the vessels for the PFAS. So we're gonna have to reach out and play mediator again. We had to do this with the media, if you recall, at that progress meeting where, adage is telling us, they're doing everything they can, and the contractor's saying they're holding them up, and so we're gonna have to play mediator and, try to break the gridlock. That being said, they are on site, they are still, plugging away. This week, what we thought they were going to be doing is all the drainage work. They kind of surprised us all this morning by tapping into the residuals line.
And that's what I thought they were doing, so when I went up there to see them, like I'm kind of upset that they think that the backwash water is coming out of the drain lines, and I'm like, well, you're supposed to be doing the drains, and there shouldn't be any backwash water going in, and that's when I realized that they were, they finally looked, I could see the drain, they're not working on the drains. They're tapping, it's the building drain from inside, from the vessels that will go out to the lagoons. So yeah, he was getting about 900 gallons a minute coming.
It was such an unforced error. All they had to do was tell us what they were planning to do today.
Right.
We would have said time out.
Yeah.
But instead they told us they were going to do one thing, showed up and did another, and
else.
ended up with a mess on their hands. So,
Right.
Barry did call them and say what the, insert word is going on.
Yeah, you're on camera, remember?
Oh, and it's just hard to shut down the plant when it's in a backwash because there is no mechanism to do it. You have to physically put everything in manual and close it.
And I feel like we've been pretty consistent with our messaging. Like anytime we're gonna have an interruption or a shutdown, we need to coordinate it, a couple days in advance. So I don't know what the disconnect was. If they truly didn't, the contractor didn't understand the process well enough to know what they were actually cutting into, is my best guess. Because talking to Mike Bisco, he seems to know better. So I don't really know. If it's the only oopsie, I guess we'll be lucky, but it was a little annoying. From our standpoint, we had Dan out there covering today because Derek was out. And again, we would have maybe sent a different person out there if we were doing
known what
a
was being done,
shutdown
right.
versus doing some light drainage work. So anyway, little hiccup, but it
It's
sounds
all good.
like
Nobody drowned.
it sounds like we got out of it without too much.
Well, maybe they'll pay a little more attention going forward.
Yeah, I mean, right, it's one of those things, well, now, talk to the contractor and, hopefully be a little bit more careful. At least for a couple of weeks, right, and then slide back into it. So anyway, so that's kind of the crux of the issue is, we need to get rid of the two things holding us up, which is the PFAS vessel and then making decisions on the internals of the green sand.
I mean, the internals, realistically, we have to replace. So it's just gonna be a matter of,
Yeah,
What
it'd be foolish
to try
dump
to,
new media without addressing those items, right? Knowing that at some point you're gonna have to do it, but now you got all this brand new media in the way, so. It's
it's
really,
gonna be empty, we might as well, that's when to take care of it.
yeah. And that's what the contingency is for, is, and, as we know, moving forward to the next phase, we want to make sure we can show and document that we have done everything correctly in terms of the green sand process, that we're protecting our PFAS media so that down the road, they can't meet their performance guarantee that, the PFAS media supplier can't meet the performance guarantee of their product, but they can't point the fingers anywhere else. So, another reason why we want to make sure that we can show we've done all the right things with the
Yep.
green sand process. And then anything else on Manly?
We did a change order. The electrician added in 2 more lights. There was I didn't want the lights over the tanks where we can't change them out at a point when they burn out. So I asked them to keep them in the aisles, which left a kind of a blank spot in the middle of where the tanks were. So they added in 2 lights, which should be a substantial change.
Did the guys from them that were there know about it, or?
Yes, they know.
They know, okay.
When are you next planning to take a PFAS sample?
We're up on our next quarter, so I can pull one this month.
Okay, yeah, I just curious, want to see that it's still stabilized. That way we don't have a surprise. Okay, anything else on Manly? Alright, well, Senior Norman's where all the fun stuff's happening anyway. So, long story short, we're still waiting for the MIPA certificate. We don't have it as of, I just checked my email now, as of right now. So we reached out to MIPA on Friday, backing stuff. We were expecting Wednesday to be the cutoff for the review process.
Yeah.
So we knew it was probably unrealistic. We were going to get a certificate from them the day the review process was over, so we gave them until Friday to not be too annoying. And they did reply to us Friday saying, you only got 1 letter, and it was a letter of support, and that they thought the secretary would get around to signing the certificate on Friday, is what they said, in which case we thought we would have got it today from them. So we'll have to kind of, play the game of stay on top of them without being annoying.
Yeah, but nothing came up at the last minute to stop it, or anything.
Exactly. So, we do have at least that level of confidence that we got no feedback other than a letter of support from DEP. So at this point, it really is just a formality of getting the certificate. And it's just gonna move at the pace of the, the secretary, I guess. We're antsy, as you know, because we can't submit to DEP with our approval to construct package until we have it in hand. So, we essentially have everything packaged up so that when we get the certificate within 24 hours, everything's uploaded and sent over to DEP and kind of get the clock ticking on them. So we're engineers, so if you give us a couple extra days, we're just gonna keep tinkering with things. So we're just keep taking things that are on our wish list that we know we have to do before it goes out to bid anyway, and improving the plans and the specs, and then when we get the certificate, we'll do pencils down, print the PDF, package it all up and send it. So, that's kind of where we're at with that. On the pre-qualification, we did get a hold of, the one contractor, and we have a call set up with them for 9 a.m. Wednesday. We'll have 2 people from Tate and Howard on the call. We'll document it in writing, what was presented. We'll finalize the scoring, and then we're planning on closing out, so to speak, on Friday.
Yep.
So that next week we'll start sending out pre-qualification letters to contractors who pre-qualified.
You're going to be on one of the ones on the call?
I will be on the call, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I also want to have an individual on the call who has looked at multiple financial packages from multiple contractors to make sure we're being consistent. Where I was in charge of the QA/QC and the overall scoring, I didn't necessarily do the initial review of every document for all 67 references. And so, just for that continuity, we will have at least 2 of us on the call. And then, like I said, we'll document it for the file and then do the scoring, and by the end of this week, we'll be done.
Okay.
And so then really what we're gonna be doing is spending the next 30 days getting ready to go out to bid. So, actually, you can talk about this while you're looking at plans. So I wanted to bring updates to these sheets because they changed a bit from what I presented last time. And they'll change again before they go out to bid, I'm sure.
But the bathroom's all set, right?
So I think so. It was. Yeah. So long story short, what we have here is what we're calling a 95% set that's going to DEP for their review. While they're doing their review, we will be taking this and more importantly our subs and getting everything up to 100%. At which point we'll get you a set of plans and specs. Maybe we'll even give you more than a week to review it.
It'd be nice, because it could be a lot more than there was the last time.
That way we can kind of go through, because that will be our last chance, right? So once it goes out to bid, any changes cost more. So our plan is to within that 30 days, and to be honest, we're really nervous that DEP is going to take more than 30 days. Absolutely everything has been slow or late coming back from them. But we're hoping that, because the SRF team is telling us, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, that we can say, well, go talk to your engineering department, because everyone's holding us up, right? And I don't know, we'll see if that gets us anywhere. So the biggest, kind of changes, we did reorganize the bathroom, so we didn't have any fixtures on the exterior wall. It is still ADA compliant, so we had our architect review that once we moved them around. We put a mop sink between the storage and the mechanical room. It didn't really make sense to try to squeeze it into the office or squeeze it into anywhere else, so it's kind of out in the process area, which is honestly the best place for if it ever gets used.
It's on the same floor, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Electrical room got a lot bigger, didn't it?
What's that?
The electrical room did get quite a bit bigger.
So we fought that battle hard and lost. So they took a lot of real estate. So now your storage room is looking an awful lot like a storage closet. As a result of that, the water heaters are now up in the mezzanine, but they're over the mechanical room, they're not over the electrical room. The fire service, not that I think you guys were probably too concerned about it, but in our last review, we showed the fire service coming in the mechanical room. It's now going to be coming in over in the corner here, because our mechanical room and our storage room are pretty cramped now. We also had to move the access to the wet well that was previously outside next to the aerator. Structural engineer came back and said they can't do it. There's not enough structural support to have it there. So that's why you now have 2 hatches into the wet well. They're both in the mechanical room. So the mechanical room now is also pretty cramped.
I mean, considering how little space we're getting in the storage room,
I know that wall is,
would we be better off eliminating it and just increasing them, giving them back
could
the
do that.
space?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, 4 feet wide?
yeah, that's,
By the time the door opens, I mean, that's worthless.
3 feet.
I mean,
Yeah.
you might store the mop in it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if the mechanical room's too tight, I'm gonna kind of lean towards Wayne for this as far as what you think about it, but I think you'd almost be better off having the extra room in the, either all to the mechanical or split between the mechanical and the electrical, and we'll use the other space available for,
yeah, I don't
whatever
see any
things we
sense
have to
in
store.
making that storage room. So we can store stuff wherever, things that we're gonna store.
yeah, it's just, at that size, it's just kind of useless.
Okay, understood. We'll make that change probably between when we submit to DEP and when we go up to bid.
Yeah.
Other than that, we added removable stanchions. You're not going to be able to see them here. They're on the civil site plan. I didn't bring a new copy of that.
Oh.
But we did add removable stanchions that will go outside the overhead door, just so that nobody can access it for a vehicle. I think we also kind of laid out the lab a little bit, Wayne, so you could see it better on this sheet as opposed to having to, go and look at the plumbing sheet, go looking at, process to figure out what's going on in there. So you can kind of see the layout where, you have the countertop and sink along one wall, and then your computer desk against the other, which would have a workstation. Am I correct when I say that you're planning on still having this be where you do most of your work?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay. Because we have some facilities where it's the primary, and we'll put, multiple computers there, so they have, one for SCADA, and they have one with access to the internet to do, but our understanding was that, you're just looking there to have a SCADA computer there,
Right.
Do any reporting or anything, but you don't need, that to become your primary workstation.
No. Ideally, it would have been nice to have extra funds and build out an office area on the front and then just move us all there to something new, but that's not gonna happen. So we have new offices here with fresh paint.
All right. So I guess we'll just kind of keep you posted on the timing. We're gonna reach out to SRF and just kind of give them an update as soon as things are submitted and say, we've got the certificate, we're into review, this is our timing. And then we're gonna just kind of keep the pressure on engineering. So just kind of, I know we talked about this, but just to bring us all on the same page, our schedule is very tight. We hit, all of the milestones that we wanted to hit once we realized that an EIR was going to be needed. But as we knew back then, we do have very little wiggle room between we're submitting to DEP, we're giving them 30 days for review. We then have likely a 6-week bid period because we have multiple sub-bids. Questions are going to come in. No one looks at these things in the first 2 weeks they're out to bid.
Say 6 weeks full bid is gonna be real aggressive. If we get that, we're gonna be real lucky, I think.
So, right, that relies on, exactly. I mean, things always,
That means no hiccups during the filed sub bids and no hiccups during
right,
the main.
yeah. With all of that, it will still be, a push to get this awarded by June 30th, which is technically the deadline. However, DEP has been telling us verbally, not in writing, not to stress so much about that June 30th, but our goal has always been not to leave it up to chance, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're still gonna be trying to hit that aggressively, but it's gonna take everything going right, including DEP doing, a 30-day turnaround. If I were a betting man, I would not bet on it.
Anything else?
I think that's all I have for you this time.
So those SCADA license, like the GE software, they're like $20,000 a license or something. I know they're not cheap because they're now pestering me for my thing. One part of it is expiring and it's like $17,000 to continue on, but we don't upgrade it. It just sits, once it's installed, we don't upgrade the windows, we don't upgrade anything, so it works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Would it be cheaper or easier to just make everything report up to the new plant SCADA? And this terminal would just be a feed through, because the antenna comes in here and we have the fiber optics, so we could feed it through. I don't know if that,
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Ron, because right now we have it going the other way around. So
yeah,
we
I
have-
know, that's why, because this would have to all be upgraded, it's old. I don't know if it would become less and upgraded easier.
Okay.
It's just a thought, because more than likely, these plants, the people are gonna be sitting in them from this point forward, it's not that much different that somebody's sitting there with it, and I just go up there for my reports. I just know the licenses are expensive. We have two, that would make three, so.
Yeah.
Quantity discount.
Yeah, no, they don't give you anything.
Okay. Yeah, I can follow up with Ron, who
Yeah,
kind of did all of that.
he might know easier off the top of his head.
Yeah, and he's also been out here before, and he's seen it with his own eyes. So he'll be able to steer us in the right direction. And if we have to hop on a call or, with the three of us, we can do that too.
Yeah.
Talk it through.
Anything else?
No?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other just moving piece is town meeting. Right, it's like, having it all pass and get it, the rest appropriated.
I don't consider it a slam dunk, but I'm working on it, so I will have a pretty good PowerPoint presentation to show them and explain to them why we need to pass it, but I don't, it's a lot of money, and the town's also looking at new schools, so everybody knows that in the back of their mind also.
But without it, we aren't gonna be able to continue to pump the water
Right,
either.
eventually with PFAS, they'll shut you down because it's an MCL.
Yep.
And the other, a secondary exceeding the action level means you either make a plan to fix it or you shut it down. So there
And
really
this is
isn't
the
a
plan,
choice.
this is the plan to fix it, so if it gets shot down, we
Right.
shut the system.
And right now, there's funding.
Yeah,
You let it get shot down, you shoot it down, then there may not be funding in the future.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how in-depth you go into the presentation, but I think one thing you could point to is, this project got funded, through the IUP the previous year and, scored pretty well. We submitted a very similar project this year to add PFAS here to what we did in Manly, and we were off the list. So in terms of, funding, if we don't get that appropriation in May, we essentially lose this round of funding. So then you either need to, go elsewhere, right, to fund it, or you shelf the project for another year, but we already missed the next go
Yeah.
around. So you're,
So you're going out a couple of years.
Going out a couple
If you
years,
even
more-
come up better, and your costs are gonna go up because it's gonna escalate for 2 years.
yeah, so it would be, nobody knows, but people are really worried about prices going up out there. Material costs going up. So,
Going down.
So so when they submit these pay recs as they come along, so the trust fund actually moved $68,000 to us. How do we spend that out? Because when the pay recs come, they're all heading towards SRF.
yeah, so from a paperwork standpoint, we don't want to be going back and forth between the two pots of money.
So at the end, do they just so when they go to settle the loan, they'll fix how much we've spent? Is that when we transfer the money back to them and say, we have this much to pay down in advance before you fix the payment schedule?
So, yeah, I mean, probably sooner than later, we're gonna have to, sit down, you, Barry, and I, and make sure we know this is the number, not to, that you have alternate funding for that. So we don't go beyond that point with the SRF, otherwise you're giving up some of that, right? So at some point, we're gonna stop submitting reimbursement to SRF and instead start reimbursing through the other program.
Right, because
Then
there's
when
the
project
offer also.
closes- Right, so when the project closes out, your SRF loan will be for this amount as opposed to right now, you've got approved for the SRF loan for the whole amount. But we know we're taking at least, what was it, 300 and change in ARPA, plus, the trust fund you said is additional.
Well, there's
So
about 800,000 in the ARPA.
for construction or total? I thought that was total, and some was going to engineering.
Right, yeah, however, it gets broke, because I know that the SRF won't pay for engineering.
Right.
And I don't know what that total fund is, there's a lot of numbers flying
So
around.
we have all of that, but I guess we need to just understand what you have other than ARPA.
There's just the ARPA and the Clean Water Trust, which
Okay.
is, I believe that they've stated it's about 600,000 that they're gonna put towards the Manley project. Which means the other part of the 3-point-something million will head towards the Sea or North.
Okay, you're talking about the one we've submitted 700 times on?
Yes, yeah, because they sent a letter a long time ago, this goes back to December 10th of 2024, that they've already allocated funds to us.
Yeah, it's just they keep changing things.
Right, the paperwork, yeah, that's.
I don't know if you saw the new submission, but in the comments, we now have an entire paragraph for each line of the table saying, this is how the numbers work. Because it kept going back and forth and questions on this and all this doesn't match that.
It got so big, I couldn't read it.
Yeah, well, the document now is up to what?
It was a lot of, I didn't even print it.
Hundreds of pages.
I
at
downloaded
this
it and
point.
saved it.
You can't even email the file anymore. It's
Right.
gotten so big with all the attachments and it. It'll be worth it, right? We can-
Right.
Oh, yeah, it just gets kind of silly.
I mean, we're banging our heads against the wall, but it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys are gonna get on a call, you think it'd be worth trying to get Scott Golder on at the same time?
For
So,
this,
With
yeah.
any, no, for the, we're just talking
For
about
the
the payments,
finances?
for the finances.
I mean,
doesn't
he just
some of that
needs to
still-
know how it's gonna be spent out at the end. I don't know if he
But I
wants.
mean, it might be good if it's being discussed how it goes, it might not
I
be,
can
at
ask
least,
him.
yeah, at
when we
least
get to
ask
that
him.
point if he wants to be in on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we could do is, if Barry and I come down for a progress meeting, we could just hang out after and he can come over.
Yeah, I can
I mean, it might
invite
be
Scott.
it might be short notice to get him here Wednesday,
Right.
but we could do the next one.
Yep. I can ask him.
Okay.
at least that way he's not getting surprised at some point
Right.
by, in case he would have thought of something different.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we'll coordinate that then.
All right,
That's all I got.
no one has any questions for James, we can let him go.
It's a thorough job, James, thank you.
All right,
Great
thanks.
job, James.
Anything
James,
else, Wayne?
This is my last
No,
meeting, so.
Oh, all right, it's a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Best luck. I think you're gonna be spending your Monday scouting, right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. But, thank you,
Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the board from my perspective. I'm sure they feel the same.
thank you.
Best of luck. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Take care, James.
Well, I was going to make that announcement, but since you did that for us,
He
Yes.
trumped you.
Write-in ballots haven't been counted yet.
Just wanted to say that.
Yep. Well, since it's been said, thank you for the time you've spent with us. I'm not really thrilled that you're leaving, but I understand why. And hopefully you keep involved with stuff with the town, because we need people who aren't ancient to be on some of these boards and committees and stuff.
When I say this, Dylan, you will be hard to replace.
Thank you.
So feel free to come back anytime.
Yep.
The seat might be open.
It might be with, you never know.
I doubt it.
It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure.
Okay, so moving right along. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's job description.
So I wrote it up. I mean, it's a work of art. It's not anything that's cast in concrete.
Look at that.
Well, but it's something, I mean,
I tried to capture, and I tried to capture when things occur for me. Like, that's why December into, February are like the worst times. Everything hits then.
well, this is partly I wanted it because where you're gonna be retiring coming up.
Right.
You wanna be able to take the time, not in a rush, and really come up with a good job description
Yeah.
for when we have to advertise and make sure we have everything all together and straightened out. So that'll be a good start, and then we can review it and keep talking with you about where you think maybe stuff should change.
Right. There are ways to change it and lighten the load a little. If you're gonna have a working superintendent, I also thought the spot where we get clobbered is the instrumentation people that we don't have, then you're on their beck and call.
Yeah.
And if you went and looked for an electrical engineer that knows PLCs and is knowledgeable of the SCADA systems, that might be a huge plus, and then you have to spread the other duties that he wouldn't know anything about out.
Yeah, that's the problem. Working superintendents are tough because
Right.
there's a lot more than just the normal bookkeeping, management, and oversight stuff.
You have to multitask on an extremely high level.
Does the union agreement allow that?
So my job is not in a union. Like, this town doesn't have a union for the salary positions.
I just know that in certain jobs, if you touch a tool and you're not in the union, they can file a grievance or something.
I designed so many things when I was at Polaroid, and I was never able to touch a tool. I couldn't even watch the guys do it because they thought I was timing them, which I wasn't. I just like to see my things come to fruition. And when I got here and I could touch stuff and do things, I really didn't want this job. I was having fun.
Well, 20 years later.
And now it's just as much
Yeah.
fun. But no, at least, we can get something figured out, started. We got time this way too. If there are issues
Right.
that come up, we can work through how we might deal with them.
I mean, I've already thought there are things that aren't captured here, that it's just, there'll be an ongoing list, and it's just how it gets
Yeah.
spread out. I mean, I didn't get any training, I just learned it as I moved along.
Yeah, the job's gotten a bit more complicated since you started.
The regulations just kept
Yeah.
increasing, and that finally took any fun out of it.
Well, and between the regulations and then the equipment, everything running now is more complicated, so it's gonna be a tough thing to try to learn on the job with everything that goes on now. But this will be a good start for us getting going with preparing for your ultimate retirement.
Yes, I don't think I've never actually taken a week off in my 20 years here. So it was kind of different to take a week off.
Decompress a little bit.
And with that said, the beginning of April, I'll be gone for 10 days, so
Beginning of
I've
May.
learned to like it.
Beginning of May.
So I won't be here for the first meeting in May.
You'll miss it.
You won't, the first maybe, but you'll be here for town meeting.
I'll be here for the town meeting, yeah, I made sure that I would be back for town meeting.
All right.
Unfortunately, it's also the first time that the commissioners meeting isn't on town meeting night. Usually we're meeting here and then
Yeah,
running up
going
there. And once it happened on my birthday.
When is town?
It's the 14th or something. It's like the second weekend.
Yeah, so we meet the week before and the week after.
Yeah.
Town meeting.
May 12th.
Okay. Okay, moving along, the 5 to 10 year plan.
I kind of developed this. These are things that, you know, they're out there. Obviously, we're already replacing the F550
Yep.
because it decided to die before we could get to paying it off the F700.
Yeah, and long-term PFAS is in progress
Yep.
at Manley.
But it's still it's part of the plan, you know. It's,
Yep.
It's in progress. We're trying to facilitate the Norman Ave generator, but once they get to a certain size, they can't be natural gas anymore. They have to be,
Propane?
no, they have to go over to diesel. And then you have a storage tank sitting in close to the 400 foot
Yeah.
radius. So that's why, like, right now, this one runs this and Station 1. You know, Rick was all about trying to cut down on cost, and that was the demand charge for large utilities. The turn on and off created demand charge, so he eliminated one when he fed Station 1 from here. But we can't feed Station 1, this, and the new plant all in one. They're trying to work out how they can do it, but I think Norman Ave's gonna end up with a manual transfer switch. I gotta remember to ask Phil what they're doing with the generator from the transfer station
Yeah.
and its capacity. Because we might be able, if the town's gonna get rid of it, we might be able to pick it up and have it sit there, ready to go.
It's as good as new. Did they ever use it?
I'm not
It
sure.
got
they ever used
exercised
it.
once in a while, I think.
Yeah.
But the, is it just the gas service out here isn't big enough to power it?
No, once it gets to a certain size, I guess the generator's capacity, it can't be natural gas. It can't do it. That's why they have to go over to diesel.
Okay.
So right now, this one's gonna be natural gas. If it can't feed this building, that's fine also. When the power goes out, it goes out.
Well, especially
But a
if you...
smaller one for us then.
Yeah, like this is a giant
I
monstrosity.
think the one that used to be behind the senior center back,
Yeah,
they did
there
that.
was
is-
a portable, there's
that-
still another one kicking around.
Well, I think it's still in the yard over at the highway, because we were gonna sell that, and
Yep.
highway said no, and we went over there.
Right.
And
So
I don't think it ever
I'll
got
reach out
used
and
again.
ask, and it might work.
Yeah. Okay. Then the altitude valves, which we just have so much else going on.
Right. That would go to a back burner, I think.
Yeah.
Replacing the steel water mains is more of a priority.
Wow. I never knew that so many streets had steel water mains.
Yep. When we did that Pebbles Road, that service leak,
Yeah.
that accounted for probably around 1 million to 3 million gallons a year. That was a huge leak that didn't surface. Yeah, that's why we had issues trying to dig it up, because it was so wet.
Yeah. And can we come up with we have a list of the streets we want to work on and get it through to Phil as far as, so when they start planning repaving, and maybe we can kind of get on a,
I used to send it over, and literally that would be the first street that they'd pave, so I stopped sending them over. It's like,
well, it's new people over there now too.
Right.
It's gonna go through Phil, so.
Right.
Give him a chance.
he's different. But we don't have we really need the town to take over. We have the capacity to go in and dig and replace the service. We don't have the time to sit there behind it, backfilling it and paving it over. We need the town to take over that part of it and then we have enough people for a construction crew to do that, we could start working it if it would ever stop raining. At some point it will stop raining.
Yeah.
But then you could literally work your way down a street jumping people off of the existing ones. The ones where there's no steel main, well, that's a danger, because you have to keep repairing it when it blows apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah, maybe a couple of weeks or so, we sit down, see if we can get a meeting with Phil, sit down
Yeah.
and go over how it might make more sense for the stuff to work, so things
Right.
can progress easier. Because the other thing, then you get in the middle of that, if something goes off at one of the treatment plants,
Yeah,
we
well,
got our
that's,
guys tied up.
we're still trying to get back to Crescent Street to fill that one in, and that's from January. But it's been raining so often, and we had to fix Pebbles Road, that was
Yeah,
a bad leak.
One of the service tie-ins on Lincoln Street is sinking down there. The first one from South Elm,
All right.
heading up Lincoln Street.
That's the
It's like
one
a
where they
reverse
dug it
loop
up?
now. One more up. No, not where they dug it up for the cross connection, the next tie-in.
All right, I'll drive up if I don't get time tomorrow, because Fios had an opening, so
yep.
Yeah,
I'll get out there Wednesday, I'll look at it, and I'll let them know that I think they're on target, because they still own it, so
Yeah.
we keep watching it.
yeah, I think that one, and then I think the one going into their property is starting to sink down too.
All right.
It's not as drastic as the first one. The
Yeah.
first one's a little giddy up on it.
Can't even remember the last time I drove down that road.
Every morning at 4 a.m. I'm going down there.
Yeah, because you can get out at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never go down that road, because the time I'm here, you can't get out. Even to take a right turn is hard.
Yeah, it's even tough then. Amazon, they're starting up around that time, coming
Yeah.
from
Oh, out of Bridgewater?
Yeah, it's like a row of cars every morning at 4
Yep. Yeah, you see them and they have certain times that they must reload, because there's a stream of cars coming back into them,
Yeah.
waiting to reload to go out again.
They all go right up to that Shell gas station in there.
Yeah.
Take up every spot there.
It generates a lot of traffic. Hopefully the one on Lincoln Street isn't gonna generate that kind of traffic on top of it, depending on what they end up getting in there.
300,000 empty square feet right now.
Yeah.
Well, you've got another 200 and something on the
Yeah.
other end of town too. so-
Yeah.
And
No.
those are literally on the highway. It's like,
Yeah.
they're prime spots. The other ones that are all inbound are still sitting empty also.
And the other ones down in Bridgewater, they're on either
Yeah.
18 or 20.
Yeah.
That's the same thing, they gotta run to get to the highway.
Right.
All right, so and then water meter replacements.
So that's coming up. You can just do that. So there are cheaper ways to do that instead of replacing the base, which is, I think it's only about $80 for the base. But you can save $80 times, 2,600 customers. And then you're just with the transmitter and the head. And I want to say that those just around $300 or less currently. And if you do it over a 5-year thing, then you roll out. So you spread it out so it's not a huge taxing thing in your budget. That's why I remember Eldon saying, how many times are you gonna come back asking for money for these meters? And I said, this is it, because I counted. I knew how many I needed.
And on this one, any risk to not replacing the base?
Not really. I mean, our water's fairly clear and clean. Yeah, we have iron and manganese, but I don't see any gum up. The only time you have issues is if you have a break and dirt gets in there and jams it up.
Yeah,
We don't have too many of that. I think you could risk it.
I agree.
And keep a little bit of money out of the...
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that reminds me. I had a question from one of the people working on the school about the Roselle McDonald school flows. He said they just seem to be really low.
So as far as, I wasn't here when they were built. So, I mean, that meter could be underperforming. It's a larger meter. It could be underperforming.
We just talked about it before.
Okay, so is that
In
something?
essence, what you're supposed to do is test the larger meters, but nobody has bypasses built in to go and test them, and they don't have the test cocks to do it. So you literally have to pull the meter out and put another one in. In the Roselle, I would almost guarantee that where that one's positioned, that's directly on the main. Like the Howard, the Spring Street School has like 3 in it.
Yeah.
And the Howard is also in the middle of the school, oddly. I don't understand why it's not on an outside wall coming in, but it's basically almost in the middle.
Well, when they added on to the school 35 years ago.
And then that's what
it was
I
an
figured
exterior wall,
happened, but that's, I answered back the guy's questions.
Okay, so you did get back to him already?
Yeah.
we
Okay.
did.
I didn't have time to pay attention, and then Carrie called me on it, so I had to pull it out of my trash folder. And then I looked through and read it and answered him back.
Okay.
And the high school is definitely, I was here when it was built, I know it's on the only one line coming in.
Yeah. No, so Rosa, and actually that could help us with our unaccounted for too, if that's under registering.
Right, and the only way, I hate replacing a meter, I'll go in and look at it and then get a cost to replace it out.
Yeah. At least that's something we can schedule, do it over the summer when the school, when
Yeah,
they're out of
right.
school.
Yeah.
Okay. Replace excavator.
So when we work a water main break, we suffer because we can't, it's like digging with the teaspoon because the mud fills in faster than you can pull it out. You try and remove a greater quantity of materials. And when we get to the streets, we'll never own a big enough machine to break through the street. That's
Yeah.
just a fact. But something a next size up would be more helpful. It's not required. That one runs fine.
What year is that?
And so it occurred while I was here, 2005. So I want to say it's like 2010 or something. And it's worth money. We've kept it in good shape. We've maintained it. So even when at trade, it has some trade-in value.
Okay. Do you have any idea of cost of a new one?
I want to say somewhere around 125,000.
On the upgraded size?
Yeah.
Well,
But I mean, it's not
We'll be-
mission
we'll-
critical. It's just a.
yeah, we'll be looking at that when we get through some of the other stuff.
Yep.
We'll replace the van. How long is
Yeah, I
that?
mean, it's my van is I want to say it's like a 2011 with 137,000 miles. I don't care because I can park it somewhere and I don't have to worry about scratching it. So I kind of like it, but it shakes, rattles, and rolls. I don't care. Gets me from point A to point B.
But that might be something to put on the, again, on the back burner list.
Right.
I mean, it's still safe. It's not like it's gonna, it
No,
won't
it's
pass
maintained.
inspection or anything like that.
Yep. Actually, I have to get them to re-inspect it. I have to look at the tires.
No, but as long as it's not, you know, we've heard
No,
of,
it's safe.
heard of vehicles in town before that, yeah, they're not particularly safe to
Right.
get in and drive. We don't wanna put anybody in something like that. All right, so this will be something we can look, couple things we can be looking at over the next bunch of meetings
Yep.
with whoever replaces Mr. Cragen. Okay, next new business, cross-connection program.
So the water department doesn't dictate where a backflow preventer goes. It's the plumbing code.
Well, not really.
But they're supposed to survey, and we don't have any trained surveyors, so you can either go outside or you can bring the program in-house. I've never had, every time that I get to looking at this, something else comes up and I can't stay on top of it because you have the surveying side. So when I was doing the annual report this year, which I never got trained on either, but then I finally realized that in these pages, it asks you how much you're surveying. Well, I was always putting other numbers in there because I didn't understand the question. So this year I got an understanding of the question. So we can either hire out and spend money, which we don't want to do, or we can train 2 people to run the program. And it's like a 3-day course to become a surveyor, and the persons that I would choose would be Deborah to do the in-house, the bookkeeping part of it, and then Brian, because he knows boilers and feeds and chillers. And those are big cross-connection things, because if your boiler has
Chemical treatment.
chemical treatment and your chillers have chemical treatment, you do not want them backflowing
Yeah.
into the system. And we have several big buildings in town that have that kind of equipment. Like Joseph's cleaner, I don't know where the heck Joseph's is, but he's failed his backflow for I don't know how many years now, and I just can't get to him. We have 400 Manley Street who put the backflow preventer down in the ground in a vault with their electrical. So our cross-connection person won't touch it, because if it should fail and it's in a flood condition, I don't think she can get out of the hole fast enough to avoid getting electrocuted.
Yeah, that's a pretty,
So I've chased them, but I just can't ever catch enough time to go back and chase them
and
again.
that's an outside place that we've used before.
Right. So right now we use Sarian Company, and she
Yeah.
comes in and does it. And when, she decides that she doesn't want to do it, they hire, usually it's ex-DEP people that they hire and come in and do it, but I'm sure that they'll hire other people too.
How much are we paying currently, like for Sarian to come in?
So they charge us, and then we charge out to the companies. So we cover their cost with a little, so that we don't have to keep bumping that rate up all the time. I think I did have you bump it up last time. I'm not sure.
It was either the last time or the time before that, I remember. we
Right,
looked at
but
it.
we're still, what we cross-charge back to the company, it covers our costs.
So it's not like using an outside company goes on our rates.
Right, and we could do the same thing, we just have to up the rate. If we could use an outside company for both pieces of it, and then we just back charge them thing. But it's when you get to the smaller businesses, like the Joseph's Cleaner or there's like the dentist office and stuff, then they're gonna start getting hit with a bigger fee.
How much would it cost us to, go ahead.
I don't know if you want to do it in-house, because you just look at those things wrong and they,
Well, that's why we don't do the testing part of it, because.
okay. So you're just surveying, you're just.
Right, just the survey part of it, because you're just going in and basically, I have the manual here, and the DEP provides you with the sheets, and in the training, they teach you that and what to look for. And there's a checklist, but she could also work with, inspectional services. We have these contractor bays all over the place that nobody knows what's going on in them. And that's why that tire place popped to the surface. I don't know how he got caught, but he was doing a good business, and he's not in any way trying to do anything wrong. It's just that he shouldn't have been allowed to be there without the permit being changed. And there are 14 bays up on that one on Crescent Street, I believe, and nobody knows currently what goes on unless you go in. So if you have a cross-connection control program and it's tied in with the inspectional services, then it can feed back to them and say, hey, this is what's happening in these bays. And, you have the farm, they just built one on South Main Street. Mr. Snell has them, but I think most of his are all contractors. And he's not tied into the water service.
Well, how about if we had a policy that anything downstream of the meter would be on anything, whatever, some sort of standards, like what we were talking about on the tire business. So they would have one device for the whole complex.
Right, if you did the whole thing. But they just kind of get in there, they never come before us. The business wants to rent out a bay, and the guy rented out the bay to the tire guy, and then he moved dirt around where he shouldn't have been moving dirt, and the guy who owned it prior to him did a very good job of cleaning that up, Mr. Salisbury.
Yeah,
He cleaned up a crap hole.
yeah.
And then, not the tire guy, he's doing a good business. When we were there for the inspection, it's not like he has tires sitting there rotted all over the place.
I never get invited there for inspections because there's no plumbing permits that are pulled or gas permits. that
Right,
are
but it is tied into our water.
pulled. Yeah.
If you have a compressor that might be hooked into a water line or water cooled or something, then you have potential for backflow.
How much does it cost to have somebody trained to be a surveyor?
I want to say it's like $600 a person or less. The classes don't come up very often, but they do come up.
So a survey as opposed to an actual tester. We don't want to get involved with testing.
We don't want to do
They
the
fail.
testing because
They fail.
Look, don't touch.
Right. We did have somebody do it before I got here. I guess they had somebody trained to test it, and they were testing Life Care, and it failed in an open position. And unfortunately, Life Care wasn't set up with their drainage to take it. I think you got involved. I think.
It was years ago.
Yeah. After that, nobody was trained for testing because we didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
There's too much liability.
It's a bad idea for testing.
And if you have a backflow, you're supposed to have a second one sitting right there to swap out,
Yeah.
or the repair
repair
kit right there to fix it. Most of them do not because nobody's tortured them.
Or the backflow gets repaired and then they don't replace the backflow. Because it's a
Right.
code requirement to have a repair kit for the
Yes.
initial installation.
Yep. We've repaired them and they still leak. We end up replacing them, and then they don't leak.
Yeah.
Easy to replace them.
Yeah, the repair kit costs as much as the new one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
by the time you put the labor in and everything else, you might as well just
Chop
swap
it
the
out, put a
thing
new one
out.
in.
Right. But it's a program I don't have time for. I mean, I might, if the projects, it seems like there's never been an end to the projects that I've been doing, so.
They're not gonna end anytime soon with the treatment plants going on and everything else either. Did you talk to Brian about doing it?
I have not had that, I did
If
not
he'd
mention
be
it to
interested,
anybody
okay.
or anything. I just thought it was a good way to tie in inspectional services and,
No, I mean, it's-
because I know that they don't always catch what's going on in town either.
no, I think it's a good idea to at least look into that. Maybe get the schedule on when the classes are coming up and the actual fees, and we'll
Right.
figure
I
out
can
how we
look,
wanna
'cause
do
it
it.
just passed and I've looked, I haven't seen another one show up yet, but they do come up.
Okay.
Give me a list of the questionable areas in town. That way if a permit comes up, I can pay closer attention to that particular area, even if it's not associated with the actual space.
All right, anybody else have any other new business to bring up that is not on the agenda?
Nope.
Nope. And moving along to old business, nothing to report on Matfield, 0 Matfield Street. We've heard from James on stations 1, 2, and 4 and station 3, unless, Wayne, you have anything else
No.
you thought of in the meantime?
No, it's just no, it was just fun today. I'm sure when that guy cut that pipe open and the backwash kicked in at 900 gallons a minute.
Ouch. God.
They were a little excited.
Not surprised. They thought they were into a dry pipe and,
Yeah,
Work.
because usually there's just the device is reading, so there's a small trickle going through.
yeah.
But when the backflow kicks in, boy, does it kick in.
Were we able to complete the backflow out?
Yeah,
completely?
they-
So it didn't impact the treatment plant?
No,
running
we got it
itself?
shut down, but you have to physically, manually shut everything down. There's no button to say cancel backwash. Once it's been activated, it has to run through.
Yeah. All right. Communications Committee.
The new website is live. We didn't get our pop-up that we were asking for. We didn't get our maintenance calendar that we were asking for, so I'm following up on that.
So they didn't get it because they just left it out, or they weren't that far along yet?
I think they just did a direct swap from what was existing to what the new look of it all.
Yeah.
I do know that people need to clear their cache or their history. Sometimes people are trying to go on there and it looks very poor until they do that, and then it,
I think you do it once the first time.
Yeah.
but it has to be
Because all the old
done.
stuff there just doesn't
right.
let it go right on the new stuff.
Yeah, it was weird.
It just all comes up as one line of all the different menus and everything like that, so, but that's it. I will, follow up with that.
Okay. South Elm Street.
We can
Is that
officially
fixed?
take that off. It's
It-
fixed.
I thought so.
I saw that on, I'm like, oh, why is that still on there?
My fault, sorry.
Okay. Unless anybody else has something else to bring up,
Next meeting is Monday, April 21st.
which I'm pretty sure I already put in, but I'll double check. And we will be finding out at some point who will be replacing Dylan at that meeting. Why can't I get it? There it is. Yep, I had that one already. All right. Okay, well then, once again, thank you
Thank you guys.
for your
Feel
time.
free to
and-
stop by anytime.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll watch the meetings. I feel like I should make a speech, but
Go ahead.
no. I have plenty to say, but nothing to say on camera.
Oh, meeting adjourned. Which of course I can't do, so if nobody else has anything,
Make a motion to adjourn at 6:01.
Stole my thunder.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, I'm sorry.
his last official thing just got turned into a second. Nice
All right.
job, John.
He's not off the board yet.
I'll make a motion.
You gotta count the write-ins.
Too.
I'll second both of them, all in favor.
Unanimous.
And you can figure out how to write that in the minutes.